I'm going to start by talking a little bit about what I've learned about making educational videos, and then I'll get into the top 6 tips on making educational videos. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is that there are different types of educational videos that we can create. So one is a talking head, similar to what I'm doing here, where you can, even on Zoom, you can record yourself talking into the camera. And so that's one way of creating a video. Another would be to do a voice over PowerPoint. So if you're going to do a voice over PowerPoint, then if you go into, can you see my screen with all the options on the top now?
Yes. Okay.
So if you want to do a voice over PowerPoint, here I am in PowerPoint. I can go to the top where it says, hold on, I'm trying to, here where it says slideshow. You can go to this button where it says record slideshow. And if you hit the button, then you can record your voiceover. And what will happen is a screen will come up like this, and it will be recording in the top left corner. You can see here. Oh wait, can you see this screen now? Can you see a screen that looks like it's recording?
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Okay. So that's what it looks like, and you can see the next slide that's coming up, and you can just record using PowerPoint. And if you want to save it, you can say yes. Here, I'm going to say no. Does that make sense? So you can practice doing that, and you can either use the built-in audio system in your computer, or you can use a standalone, like a separate microphone to record. Either way is fine. Another thing you could do is do an interview where you're interviewing somebody else, and that could be over Zoom or GoToMeeting or anything else that you're working with. Also, you can record your class. So if you're doing a, if you're having your students participate in a synchronous class, you can record that like I'm doing here on Zoom, and then make that available to students. And then the last thing is I've made some videos using this whiteboard program. It's more advanced, so I think I'd rather not talk about that now. I'm just going to talk about the basics in this video, or in this webinar. So the next thing to think about when you're making an educational video, one thing that I like to think about is my style. And so I've kind of come to settle on the fact that I want my videos to seem conversational, and I'm okay with like making mistakes and having to go back, and it's just something that I've decided it ends up taking less time to do it if it's a little bit more conversational. But if you don't feel comfortable with that, you can write out your notes and have a more polished presentation. What I've also found is that there are, sometimes I prepare notes and I have them on the side of my computer when I'm doing a conversational video. Sometimes the notes are more detailed in some places than in others. But I also know that there are apps that you can upload onto an iPad and probably even onto a phone that are teleprompters. So you could put, after you've written out your notes or your script for a video, you can upload it into that program and then place the device next to your computer and use that as a teleprompter, as a way to kind of to read the script, but it could be at eye level. Like, one of the things you want to do is make sure that you're looking at eye level. So you could probably even put it so that it's close to the top of your screen. And that way you're looking at the screen and at the camera as you're doing the presentation. So that reminds me of another thing. Here I have my computer sitting on the table. I'm in my dining room. But another option that I use oftentimes when I'm making videos is to lift the computer a little, so that it's not, like, a lot of people when they make videos, or even when they're on Zoom or other things, their computer is kind of set up so that you can see the ceiling. And I don't like that as much. I want to be in the screen. So if you lift the computer off the table, it's more at your eye level, and then you can position it the way you want. There's in a lot of photography, they use this rule of thirds, which is basically that the face is either like on this side, 1/3 of the camera of the screen, or on the other side, like 1/3. And so that's something to think about too. If you don't want your face to be in the center, you can move it off to the side. And people are used to seeing that because that's the way that a lot of photographs are taken. So you decide your style, prepare the notes that you need to, and then just do it. And I would say just do it because you definitely get better over time. And so if you try to make the first video perfect, it's just going to take a lot of time. And I think everybody, especially in this moment, is willing to recognize that we're all learning as we go. So I would say just do it. And then, you know, you'll see what you do right and what you do wrong, and you'll learn. I mean, we're all clinicians, we learn from our experience. So this will be a way of putting ourselves in our students' position of learning through experience and kind of getting back into the mode of being a student, which I think can always be very helpful as a clinician to remind us that we were once novices ourselves. So the next thing I wanted to talk about are my 6 tips on making educational videos. So I'm going to go back into the slideshow mode. And that, so educational videos, all the research is that people have shorter and shorter attention spans. So I would suggest that you keep your videos short. I try to make mine 8 minutes or less. I actually try to make them closer to 5 minutes if I can. And what I do is chunk up the videos. So if there's a topic that requires more than 8 minutes, which a lot of topics do, I try to figure out natural breaks in the video and then just make it into chunks. So instead of having one 25-minute lecture, I'll have 4 or 5 shorter videos that all, you know, work together in a series. But it takes advantage of the fact that students don't have long attention spans, and especially on YouTube, they're used to watching videos that are short. So we can, you know, chunk it up for them. So that's one thing to think about. And then the other thing is to preference graphics over text. In law, there's a lot of times when we have to focus on text. And so when you do have text on the screen, it's really important to know that everybody has an auditory track and a visual track, and they both can operate at the same time. So what that means is when someone's reading something, they actually use their auditory track to read. That's why you kind of hear the words in your head as you're reading something. So when we have text on a screen, if we want the students to read the text, we need to either give them time to read it, that's silent, so that they have the time to read it, or read the text aloud to them. So we don't want to put text on the screen and also lecture at the same time. And I'm sure you've experienced this yourself when you're in a presentation and there's like a whole bunch of text on a screen and the presenter keeps talking. It's really hard for you to juggle both reading the text and listening to the speaker. So just remember that when you're putting text on in a video as well. And then the other thing is that I try in my videos to make each video stand alone. And what I mean by that is I want to try to make videos because it's time consuming to make educational videos. So I want them all to be reusable. I don't want to make them just, you know, for one particular class or even one particular audience. So I try not to date them or to refer to things that are happening in, I don't know what happened there. Hello? Okay. I try not to refer to things that are happening in class. So for example, I never say in a video, yesterday we talked about this in class and now I'm gonna like proceed and give you more examples. Or like I try not to even refer to other videos that even in a series, because I want each video to stand alone. So even though I know that a lot of you are, we're all reacting to the coronavirus and trying to make videos that are useful in this moment for our students. But if you're going to invest time in making educational videos, I would just recommend that you think about whether you'd be able to use these in the future. And if you can, to make sure that you don't, connect it with any kind of current events that are happening. And then the other thing is to think about the organization and structure of the content that you're providing to the students. And, there are a lot of tools that can help you to think about the organization and structure. I actually like to start by thinking about how I'm going to organize the materials and try to organize it in a way that's visually attractive so that I can take advantage of the fact that many students learn visually. And they'll remember if I give them like a set of 5 things in a group, or if I show how different things are connected one to the other. There's a website that I use called Diagrammer, and it's diagrammer.com. And this is just a screenshot of the website, but it helps you if you're interested in thinking about how to organize and structure the content that you're presenting in an educational video. It helps you to figure out different ways to organize the information. So if if everything kind of relates to a central topic, you might use a hub and spokes type of organizational structure. Or if things are linear, you might look at something like a hook. So these are just different ways and different systems to organize information. And if you go to diagrammer.com and you click on any of these, it will help you to see how to, and it actually has PowerPoint templates that you can download in order to fill in, to organize your information. And so after you figure out what kind of, how the information is organized, then you can go to the next screen, which asks you then how many different components of the diagram do you need. So if you need a 5-node or a 2-node, and then it will bring you to a next page that shows you a lot of different examples of 2-node, for example, 2-node flows. And so this I find very interesting. Sometimes I don't use the PowerPoint from Diagrammer per se, but I do use it as a way to like organize my thoughts. And then, as I said earlier, when you're chunking up the videos, if you decide that your topic has 5 nodes, for example, then you might want to do one video on each of the 5 nodes. So you might have one video that opens and says there are 5 elements to this cause of action, and then talk about them generally, and then maybe make one video on each of the individual elements, so that the students then, instead of listening to 25 minutes on all of the elements, are listening to those chunked up videos. So that's an example of how to chunk up